Okay, Dove, let's get down to brass tacks here. And my issue with this is actually very simple, believe it or not. Even though the issue itself is far from simple, but it's mainly one thing I have an issue with here. And it's not that any of these characters on the right side of this photo here couldn't belong in a video game. In fact, they each have a place I can easily come up with one right off the top of my head. Grand Theft Auto, something like World of Warcraft, Age of Might and Magic, or Cyberpunk. All this could easily work. And on the left, like we have a lady with Down syndrome, something beyond her control. Don't have a problem with that. That is a genetic thing, and I'm hoping she gets the assistance she needs to lead as close to her normal life as possible. The one in the wheelchair, I don't have an issue with that, as people have accidents all the time, could have been born that way. Don't have a problem with it. It's obvious she is trying to take care of herself, as is the lady with Down syndrome. But no problem with them at all, because they're not promoting something that is unreasonable. The ones that are unreasonable is the lady in the orange and the lady in the purple. And it's not that we shouldn't accept them for who they are. I mean, if this is the choice they are choosing to make, more power to them. I hope it leads them to the fulfillment they want in life. My problem is when they're trying to say that 60% of girls feel they lack diversity in video games, which is debunked very quickly because, number one, not everyone needs to see their exact body type on screen to relate to a character, something places like Dove and these journalists seem to forget. And number two, each of these games listed here, some of which I played, like Elden Ring, Mass Effect, Hogwarts Legacy, Cyberpunk, Diablo 3. I haven't Fallout 4. I've definitely played Final Fantasy 14, obviously personal favorite. But you can see these awesome character creation engines. Not to mention, a bunch of these games have endless amounts of mods you can find, some of which are more safe for work than others, and others go beyond Rule 34. But we're not getting into that. We're getting into the fact that each of these are like the top 20 games, or with a great character creation engine. I have obviously not played all of them myself. I have listed the ones off the list I have played, but you get my point here. If you cannot relate to the character you create on the screen, and you cannot find diversity in a character you create, that is not a problem with the game, that is a problem with your perceptions. I cannot fix that, and I do not expect a game developer to fix that because they can't. And that goes to a whole different discussion, which I may talk about later, with Final Fantasy 16 and its quote unquote lack of diversity, which I find to be a load of crap because it's not meant to be diverse in terms of what you're looking at on the screen. It's meant to be diverse in the character of the actual characters, what you relate to their struggles, what they are going through on a personal level, but that's a different discussion. Speaking of personal level issues, with the reason I have an issue with these two or overweight individuals in this photo being promoted as a new standard of beauty, this is why I have a problem with that. This TikTok influencer who is listed as Kayla, according to this article from Newsweek, I am not shaming her specifically, but I do disagree with her choices and her assertion that her personal choices that led to obesity should be subsidized in the form of free seats. And if we start giving obese people free seats on airplanes, that means the average ticket price is going to go up, which means everyday people who don't struggle with weight issues or are trying to keep their weight down and doing what they should by eating properly, working out, and living a healthier lifestyle are going to be subsidizing the poor choices by a select few individuals. Now, they're basically what they're talking about is when they got on the airplane, they were struggling to get through the aisles, and it was a full flight, so she was not able to get a second seat for free. When the flight is not full, it's kind of expected. It helps balance out the airplane. But when it's a full flight, they're basing each of the seats on an average weight and frame. And depending on where you're sitting, it does change the balance of the airplane, which can be a big problem. A quick TLDR on the basics of flight. Every plane has a maximum weight that they can take off with, and they must keep in a certain balance because if the balance is off, say it's heavier in the back or the front, It changes the flight aerodynamics, which changes how the plane handles, how far it can go, and how high it can fly. Not to mention safety issues like or potential stall if or one end of the airplane is too heavy or the other too light. Equilibrium is the key to flight in a real sense. And if you have a large or a passenger, as an example here, which is it, it's pretty obvious she's not the biggest person I've seen that's been on an airplane, but this is not all that uncommon, which is kind of sad. But the reason it's sad is because this is or her size is actually a safety issue on the airplane. One, she's going to have trouble navigating the aisles, and number two, she's going to have trouble getting through the emergency exits in the event of an emergency, which means she is actually a liability for every other passenger on the aircraft. Need to say why that's a problem. And this article does bring up one legitimate point that I do believe or warrants more discussion. For decades, airlines have been increasingly decreasing the size of seats because they want to maximize load per route, which maximizes the efficiency of the flight and maximizes profit for the airline, while also minimizing downtime and the number of aircraft in the sky, which helps the environment. But it does get mentioned here. And while studies have shown the average American population has gradually been getting larger, and our dietary choices have been getting poorer over the same time period, and there is a direct correlation to this. Now, I'm not going to say that you shouldn't be able to eat your McDonald's, but when that is 3 squares a day is nothing but McDonald's and fast food or boxed meals like TV dinners, look at the kind of crap that's put in there. It's very calorie dense, but not very useful to the body. So the body just stores it, and the end result is kind of what happens to Kayla here. Now, Kayla does mention at the beginning of the article that she struggled with body image issues, which I get, I really do. Degenerative disc disease, arthritis, and a litany of other issues that have been complications to living a healthier lifestyle. I get that. I have a hurt knee from the military. Oftentimes my blood pressure gets up really high, and sometimes I do have to deal with back issues, and I do have degenerative disc disease that runs in my family. So I have seen firsthand what that can do to a person's ability to maintain activity. I'm not saying these issues are not a factor. What I'm saying is they should not be an excuse to doing something about it. As quite frankly, her obesity can be solved by better dietary choices. Which means meal prepping, eating more veggies, eating more lean meats, pushing the carbs away, not having drinks on the side, or drinking more water and less sugary drinks. That kind of stuff will greatly help weight issues. So I'll just simply leave it at this. I am not asking anyone to subsidize my personal choices. Which means I'm not asking you to buy my car. I'm not asking you to buy my particular choice of insurance. Sorry. I am not asking you to buy my food. I am not asking you to subsidize any of my choices. If I'm not asking you to subsidize any of my choices, why should a person like this be asking all of us to subsidize her bad choices? I'm not asking you to even subsidize my good choices, like changing my car oil. I'm not asking you to do that. I'm not asking you to buy my veggies. No, I'm not asking you to, or even simply say hi. That I would like that, but I'm not asking that. If the average person does not get to do that, why do these people making bad choices get to get subsidized? I don't think that's right. I wouldn't ask you to do that if I was in her position, so I don't think it's right that she gets to ask us to do this on behalf of anyone else. These regulations are there for a reason. The health standards are there for a reason, because obesity does lead to issues or like diabetes. It puts an extra strain on joints, which, granted, people who are obese are a lot stronger than average, but the body still has to compensate in other ways, which means a lot more load on joints, which means a lower cartilage life, which will actually make degenerative disc disease worse. So there are incentives to lose the extra pounds if you are in that kind of a scenario. But Well, what do you think? I would love to hear your comments and thoughts below. I will leave my sources in the description, and I hope to talk to you later.